G'day, doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. This camera, I wish I knew how to zoom it. Anyway, that'll do. Now, if it looks like I've aged a lot, welcome to who's already joined. Not expecting to get lots of people on here, but last week we got, I think we peaked at 41 viewers. I know I look like I've been porking out this Christmas. And I don't have the face filter to get rid of all my blemishes on this YouTube live that I'm using. Hey Dave, welcome to the chat, brother. Great to see you. Anyway, let's get into it. What are we going to talk about on All Things Bulldogs tonight? I was just waiting for a few more people to join. Obviously, a few departures. I've had the Seve brothers, which we talked a fair bit about last week. It's Gus's advisor, Isaac Mataleva Booth, the phone booth, is no longer with the club. And finally, young Eli Clark made it official on his Instagram, thanking the Bulldogs for the best 4 years of his life, yada, yada. Not sure where he's going now. G'day, Adam. Oh, Adam, haven't seen you around much, but great to have you on. Happy New Year, brother. Merry Christmas. I know things are a bit tough leading into Christmas and stuff. It was tough for me too, as we nearly lost our dog, but I talked about that last week. But everyone has their ups and downs, and we just got to keep on getting on with it. But I saw we signed Leo Thompson, which is awesome. G'day, Jason, watching from Japan, and have to keep up the good work. Up the doggies. G'day, Jason from Japan. Got a mate born the same day as me. I went to high school with that lives in Japan. Don't know where he is at the moment, but he's married and got a couple of kids. So shout out to Japan. So hopefully we can entertain you today a little bit. So we'll talk about, I want you to name your best 17s. We'll get a comp going again to win some merch. And I've got some good stuff there. There's a bit of stuff up there in the background as well. I'll probably keep me Fox. I've got me Birdo, me Fox in the background, a whole bunch of stuff. Plus I've got some nice license plates that I got last year that I still haven't given away. And I've also, so what we'll do is we name the 17 we think Ciraldos is going to start with round one, which will be finalised an hour before kickoff in round one against the Dragons. And the person who gets closest to that, or the people who get closest to that, can win some merch. If we have a bunch of people, which we usually don't, then I can do a random draw sort of thing. But last year's winner didn't want to provide their details, so I couldn't send it off. And then sort of just escaped me. But anyway, plenty to be done there. We're honestly, as I said, I've said this a few times, Adam, the best Christmas present we could get is for the NRL to start Christmas Day. That'd be fantastic. It just doesn't ever happen. It's something we can't get. So there you go. I've been looking through all the news. We'll talk about Karl Oloapu as well. I've been talking about it probably the last 3 or 4 episodes that I've done. Noticeably, there was no sign of Karl. Now, some interesting stuff here. What I'm going to do is give you my opinion. I don't have any information, and if I did, I wouldn't tell you anyway. But I'm not going to put 2 and 2 together too much. But there's a couple of trains of thought around Karl. One is that the Bulldogs are trying to get rid of him because it's going to be too hard with his development and that sort of stuff. There's some other thoughts that he was always going back to Redcliffe. So I'll give you the story. Look, because he was basically not allowed to play with, not allowed to go to the Dolphins. That was his junior club. signed by the Broncos at 13 years old. Was promised, in his opinion, whether it's fact or not, I don't know. I think it is fact, though, that he was promised a top 30 spot. They didn't put him into the top 30. And then basically the Broncos charged the Bulldogs a $500,000 transfer fee, and he signed for about $250,000 a season for 4 years. So, and apparently Mr. Laundy, our sponsor, paid for the $500,000 for the transfer. So that's what I heard, and that's what was reported. Doesn't mean it's true. Come to us, we all know what happened from then on. He had a degenerative something with the discs in his back or neck, which was exposed through an injury occurred in first grade. No wonder he hit so bloody hard. You'd think a young fella like that putting big men on their ass, but that exposed that condition. He had to have surgery, which a few people have had successfully, some haven't. Now, the surgery went well. He's in his rehabilitation. Now, what I believe is that there's still a huge risk for him to play rugby league, okay? I believe there's a huge risk for him to play rugby league. I don't know this. I don't speak to anyone. But having like the NRL physio and reading up on that sort of stuff and on the condition, there's a risk. Whether that risk is a 5% or 2% or 20%, that he'll do irreparable damage to himself. That would mean that he gets, he could get a really bad long-term injury. Now, I remember there was a player called Brent Tate who was very talented. I remember he wore that thing on his shoulder, that protective guard. So he had that because he had a risk of doing further damage to his neck and to his spine. Was told he shouldn't play. They got this guard designed, reduced the risk, still a risk there, and went on to have a good career and play for the Warriors and the Cowboys and the Broncos. So I think that the fact that Gus Gould hasn't come out and said anything, and in fact he's been a bit coy about it on social media, it's like business as usual. Karl's with his family working on his rehabilitation. That's exactly what he should be doing. And, all this is news to him that he's going to join the Dolphins and that sort of stuff. I believe he's doing that just to protect the player and the club. As he does, he doesn't care if he's called a liar or whatever. And at the end of the day, Karl will, I think if he comes out publicly and says that that the club's done their medicals on him and have been given advice that he shouldn't play, and he's got some other medicals which says, well, there's a risk but are backing him in to play, but the Dogs don't want to take a risk, something like that. I think it'd be something along those lines. But Gus isn't going to come out and say that and ruin his career, because if the media get hold of that, then they're just he won't be able to play because clubs won't take him on. Whereas if things are worded a little bit differently, and the Dolphins or any club that looks at taking Karl on, maybe through the reserve grade or the QRL, and give him that opportunity, are willing to take that risk, well, there you go. He can continue his career, continue his dreams, and you might see a potential superstar emerge, which is what, we hope that he does well, whether it's with the Bulldogs or not. But I'm not sure we'll see him with the Bulldogs again. But it's hard to tell what Gus says in that. But I just think, by the sound of it, with the media, especially some of the Nine media that have talked about it as well, there could be with Moley and that, who all know Gus Gould and are friends with him and that. You would think there's a bit of fire around that smoke. So I don't expect to see him play for the Bulldogs again, but we'll never know. Jason's waiting for NRL Fantasy to come on as well. Adam says Karl Simon, the Dolphins. Still, Jason says, still think we're a fullback, playmaker, and front row forward away from really pushing for a title. And I'd be happy for a top 4 finish. Yeah, we'll talk about expectations about where we should land. A lot of people, it's going to be a season where it's very hard to make excuses. And I'm someone who will provide some reasons from time to time as to why I think the Bulldogs are going to struggle. But this year, we have had the best draw we've had in over a decade. But still, it can start off that way and then turn out to be an absolute nightmare on some years. But the way things have trended and progressed, the fact that we're travelling the least of all teams this year, which has been a long time since we've had that. We play a lot of local games. We're getting a lot more exposure with free-to-air football, which is really good for the club and the sponsors. Getting some prime time stuff happening there and in a lot of good spots as well for Foxtel. Usually we've been put into the areas which have had lower viewership, and the Dogs have been used as a bit of a cash cow to sort of bump up that viewership because of our loyalty of our fans, which just watch them every week, even when they've had enough or they're frustrated or fed up, they still watch the game. And as we do start to improve and play better football and be more competitive, the fans turn up to the games in droves, which is what you get from most clubs. I think that the Dogs really should make the 8 without excuse. But I still think that they're in a clump of teams from, 6th to, from 6th to 17th almost that could make the 8 or finish in the bottom 4. There's just so much talent spread equally across the competition. And as we say, it's all about your depth of the squad. The teams who put their best 17 on the park are going to do well if they get to do that week in, week out. The teams that don't know what their best 17 is, they're the teams that are going to struggle. Now, I think the good thing about the Bulldogs is that, and we sort of had this a bit last year as well, where there wasn't much discrepancy in what people were coming up with as far as the best 17 was. There was maybe 2 or 3 positions different. And I expect the same this year as well. I expect that we're going to see a lot more cohesion and stability. We've had a chunk of players that have stayed with the club that made their debut last year, and a few that had been sort of coming through the year before. And with those players playing all those games together and building up some cohesion, that statistic really will work in our favour. We're still in the bottom end of the competition when it comes to that, but we have, progressed above a team like the Dolphins, where you'd expect to have low cohesion. We're doing a lot. We've sort of gone way past them. We were the youngest, least cohesive side in the comp last year as far as games played together throughout juniors, reserve grade and first grade. And now we've definitely taken some steps up. And if we can keep a majority of this squad next year and only add 1 or 2 players to it, bring some of those juniors through that are in the development squad that get into the top 30 and they've had a few games, that all helps build your cohesion and your depth. And I think that's a real positive sign for us moving forward. Adam says Toby Sexton just needs time to develop. 100% agree, Adam. And I'll have a chat about Toby in a minute. And I also want to talk about a couple of players like Daniel Saluka Fafita and Joey O'Neill as 2 players I expect to debut in 2025. Jason's asking me about what do I think about the new front row forward, Tom Amone. We've talked a fair bit about him and we'll continue to do so. Prior to going to the UK, he's definitely a fringe player in the NRL, definitely making his way, getting as many minutes as he could, that sort of thing. He's the right sort of shape and body size to be able to sort of play longer minutes. And if he can transition that Super League form and contribution even to 80% of the capacity to the Bulldogs, he's going to really fit in well with our, with our rotations and that sort of thing. And it is going to be interesting to see, do we go as mobile as we were last year? Do we continue along that track? Because as I said, a lot of people keep talking about the Cowboys, the Manly loss at the end of last year, like it was a real exposure of our lack of middle prowess. When there were a number of injuries in that game, and we'd already qualified for the finals, and we definitely, in my opinion, didn't turn up for 80 minutes. Although some players really played their heart out in those games, but I just felt we were holding back a little bit. Once the game got beyond us, 2 blowouts, get into the Manly side, I felt we had our forwards won the battle for the day, and where we lost it was a lack of discipline and execution, which will lead me back to talking about let's talk about Toby Sexton, because you brought him up, Adam, and I really think that Toby had some wonderful moments last year, and I've gone through and watched. I've watched 4 of the matches last year. Two games we won and 2 games we lost. I watched us when we defeated the Dragons at Kogarah. Now, that was, in my opinion, Toby Sexton's best game, best performance. His kicking as far as the bombs that he put up, as far as his short kicking game, his passing game, his support play, and what he did in that match. It was quite tight, although that we got 2 little leads in the match. But his kicking performance that day and his work with the ball, his try assists that he got, I think he got 3 try assists for the match as well, and really created 3 or 4 more tries with his kicks. That shows me the type of player we've got there. The Dragons were there behind a sold-out crowd at Kogarah, fighting for a top 8 berth. We pretty much were getting close to already securing it, and it was a real do-or-die match for both sides. And the fact that we sort of beat them 28-10, they didn't shirk the task either. And a player like Toby really shone in that match. There was some matches where Toby did really well. And one thing I was a bit sad about with Toby's game is that his choice to when to run, kick, and pass, I felt was spot on for the majority of the season. And I was just a bit sad that he didn't make a few more line breaks, because, God, he was close to it. It's funny because I was watching Drew and Toby when they chose to run in matches. They both did it at the right time. I feel Toby obviously a bit more explosive and a bit faster. But there's some good coaching there around with the Halves Academy. I'm just sure of it. And that leads me on to another player, young fella called Joey O'Neill. So while everyone's talking about Toby, I think Blake Taft might be another one that they might keep as an option to play in the halves as well, just watching them train and stuff. Being a junior, very talented halfback coming through. I don't think Mitch Woods will debut in 2025 unless he's come a long way in this preseason. I think the player we're more likely to see is young Joey O'Neill emerge this year. I think we'll see Bailey Haywood take another step forward. And, I think Joey's going to be the one if we have an injury to Toby or Toby's form's not up to it, or they need to, make a change. If Burton, comes out, I think there's an opportunity for young Joey O'Neill to progress. I really see him stepping up in the similar mould. And I said this last week, to the progression we saw Bailey Haywood get between 23 and 24. The same we'll see for Joey O'Neill between 24 and 25. I really do. That's where I think we will make some inroads. I really do believe that. We'll see some young guys come through. But one guy that I'm excited about, and, I've seen a lot more photos come through from the Bulldogs and some videos and that sort of stuff, is big Daniel Saluka Fafita. At about 112 kilograms. He's an absolute beast. I still go back to that New South Wales Cup debut. He's like 6 runs for 130 metres with the ball. that sort of guy, that's the sort of guy that we need in our club that can do that. Now, Leo Thompson coming in 2026 is definitely going to play that role for us. And we're not sure if Daniel will secure another contract, but I'm telling you something now. If he's able to get an opportunity and he can hold up his side of the bargain defensively and put in and keep that middle held up really strongly defensively, I expect he's going to get an opportunity and not look back. If the game does go more traditional this year where we carry an extra forward, I know a lot of fans are very divided about that, whereas some believe we need to carry that extra big body, whereas some are confident we're going to sort of go out there next year and do what we did with the smaller pack. So it'll be interesting to hear what people come up with their best 17s. And here's Michael, our David Middleton of Bankstown, the young fellow who did his HSC. Long time no see. Great to have you back, mate. He's got no stats at the moment, but he did find a stat about the Dragons with them not missing finals every year since 1955. Wow. The end with a 5. So the Dragons are lock for the finals in 2025 based on that. He will when Toby builds up his confidence. Let's go, doggies. Hit that button, guys. G'day, Gratitude. How you going, mate? G'day. So look, people, we're getting a few of yous on here again tonight, which is fantastic. Thanks for joining the podcast, everyone. Great to hear from you. I'll say it a few times. We're going to put out our best 17s. Ciraldos, starting side for the round 1. If the person who puts that up when I do the competition officially, which will be next week, they will have a choice of some merch they can win. I've just got to send it to them in the mail. Simple as that. I've got a fair bit there that I can send, and I'll let you know what's available when we do it. But that's just my way of giving back. We're a community. I've got a heap of stuff, and really I don't need it all, so I'm happy to give some of it away. Got some old calendars and stuff as well, which people might want as keepsakes. But we'll probably, Mike said he's going to ease on the stats this year because 2024 is the year of the stats. Well, it was for the Bulldogs. G'day, Mr. Black. If Fafita is fit, he'll be great for the club. Another Payne Huss. Jason says he watched the game here in Osaka at an Aussie bar. Nice, mate. We'll say hello to everyone. Tell them to join All Things Bulldogs if they want. We also do some stuff about the NRL as well when we're having a crack at the media. Mr. It's Me. Mr. It's Me. Mr. It's Me is the winner from last year, and I've still got your prize there, so I'll happy to send it to you. You know, or if you want to give it to someone else, you let me know. If you know another Bulldogs fan, I'm happy to send it to them. But welcome back, mate. Glad that you've come back on the chat. So they've got different prizes here. So we've got some license plates which were created from the Nighttime podcast. I got them to make them. I paid money for them. So I made one with the Fox, one with Jacob Carraz, and one with Jacob Preston, and they look pretty cool. They're just sort of like metal license plates. I've also got some other stuff that I can send you as well. So there'll be stuff up for grabs, that's for sure. We'll just make it that you got to like it and share it or some crap like that. I don't know. Try and get it up. Mr. It's Me, have we got any depth at hooker? Will Reed's discipline improve? Yeah, damn, the Fox is gone now. He's a Parramatta eel. He's a slimy eel now. As much as we love him, he is now a Parramatta eel. That says it all. Change the one for the Fox to the Para colours. So, good question, Mr. it's me. Our depth in hooker. We've got Bailey Hayward. Jake Turpin is a ready-made hooker who can play long minutes and tackle at a very high percentage rate in droves. So he's someone who you could depend on in that stat. I think Bailey is the one they're looking at. And we've definitely got some youngsters coming through. Don't you worry about that. And you'll hear about their names. And don't be surprised if some of the in this halves academy, like they did with Bailey, they start to develop some of these little fellas, some of these younger halves, skillful players with good knowledge of the game, good passing game, good kicking game. Don't be surprised if we develop more hookers from the halves academy, because it's a natural sort of progression. We saw players like Jeff Tuvey progress into halfbacks. Pretty much most of them started as halves or 5/8s or before they became hookers. So there you go. Gratitude. Pahulu from the Titans would be a great pickup. Yeah, I think he'll be coming to the Bulldogs. Now, I approved in Facebook in a few different groups a person with the surname of Pahulu. So maybe that's a coincidence, but could be a family member of Josiah, meaning that, and apparently Josiah doesn't follow any other club on Instagram. So he doesn't follow the Titans on Instagram, and I think he may follow us. So it may be an indication, but we'll see what happens. And I'm not sure if he'll come in 2025. If I was a Titans, I'd let him go. If you got someone which you screwed over and, unless they're going to pay him the 40 grand that he was owed. But if he's not training and stuff and not really interested, I'd let him go and come to the Bulldogs. Yeah, hopefully Marnie will sign. Hopefully Toby will re-sign. Yeah, look, there was a stupid Fox Sports article, and I got stuck into one of my mates for posting it on his group, where it talked about the two players under pressure at the Bulldogs this year. And the first one he named was Reid Marnie. The other was Drew Hutchison. So, look, Drew Hutchison's not a profile signing for us. So I don't know why his name is there. I think Drew is playing his role in the club that he was paid to play. And that is to be, to try and guide the kids, use his knowledge, use his system knowledge, pass on good habits, good culture, good leadership, and be there to play if called upon and to try his hardest to play first grade. They're all under pressure, as much pressure as each other when it comes to that. I think Reid Marnie, they're talking about his attack. And I'm like, well, he was the highest performed attacking hooker in the comp. And every time he stood in the line, when he sort of played in a link role, whether it be as a small 13 or as an extra half, he engages the bloody line before he passes it. He gets hit every time he passes the ball. Like, he does his job well, and most of the balls he throws are good. Hookers will always spray one when they've made 60 tackles. And I think that's where there's a train of thought, and I don't necessarily disagree, that maybe if we play Reid for 65 minutes at full pelt and have an actual rotation with another hooker, we've successfully done in other eras with the likes of Corey Hughes and Adam Perry, Corey Hughes and a few others, where we've done that rotation. Maybe that would work well for Marnie, and to use a player like Hayward or Kurt Mann or whoever it would be to come on and play in that role and give him a bit of a break. But I think what Reid does is he's just an 80-minute player. And, I think he's been good for us. There was definitely some discipline issues in that semi-final, which people have talked about a lot. And there's some games where he's, by standing up for his mates, which is what he's doing, he's put a target on his back. And that means he just needs to handle it a little bit differently, because it will cost us, because referees will just penalise him by association, and it'll cost us penalties because he's there, even if he's done nothing wrong. So, yeah, he probably just needs to reframe how he goes about it and what he says and when he says it and how he says it. Just change who you are, Reed, and you'll be right. Mr. Black, other clubs are seeing Bulldogs as a threat now. We are no longer a team people used to walk over, which means other clubs will be hesitant to allow players to leave and join us. Well, that's one of the things, but I think Gus is pretty good at that, Mr. Black. I think we've seen the Dogs being linked to every club. Every profile signing we've been the favourites to acquire their signature. And there's only been one player out of the last 25 signings that we've made, one profile player that we've actually signed, where there's been another club battling us for their services. And that was the last one, Leo Thompson. Prior to that, every player we got, they were never going anywhere else but to Canterbury. There was never any discussion of other clubs being interested. Or only mildly interested. Like, there was nothing. It was basically Canterbury assigning this player. So, the salary cap wars, as I call it, are intriguing to watch, and even knowing that and showing faith. I think the way Gus has handled it, and the whole club, you can't just say it's Gus. It's the whole club, and it's the system that they've put into place, which essentially they get that system to work so that Gus isn't needed anymore, because that's how it works at Penrith now. The system is there and they don't fuck with it. And essentially the cap manages itself, because once you get your cap right and everyone knows this is how we do it, this is the system, then it's about, just fitting a few things into place. And that's why we're going to see a lot of young kids leave. We're going to see some players come to us constantly for a while. We're going to see big name players drop out. But one thing they do is that I think they're forecasting that they're going to need to, so they're not paying top dollar for. They're not interested in going out and buying that $1.2 million player. I probably could only name 2 or 3 players I think that Gus would pay more than $1 million for. And believe me, the reason for that is that they want that $1.2 or $1.3 million player to already be at our club, or to be some 12-year-old or 13-year-old they're about to sign to bring through the juniors and through the junior system. That's the player. So they want to keep their salary cap rolling so that when that player emerges from within, they've got the money to keep them the whole way through. And that's how they do it. Like, then there's no desire to go out there and pay for a $1.2 million player. Now, I think Gus feels that Jarome Luai is, in one of the top 3 halfbacks in the comp. I would say that he believes that in his heart through what he sees and what he looks for. Many people would not agree with Gus on that, but I think Gus would pay that money for Jarome, but obviously not the same amount that the Tigers paid. And the Tigers have made Jarome Luai in the top 5 paid players in the game. So there you go. They obviously felt highly about him, but I think they needed him more than we did. People talk about Canterbury going buying a comp. The Tigers have bought so many players in the last 3 or 4 years on huge money. So they're going to be, I think, and look, you'd expect they're going to climb a little bit, but what I look at for them is, are they going to be in the same situation in 5 years' time that they were in right now or two or 3 years ago? Because they're not going to be able to pay their juniors to keep them when they do develop them. That's the problem I see for the Tigers, because they've got some stars in there and some star young kids, and yeah, I don't know how they're going to keep them with all the salary cap they've got invested in some players in their club. But anyway, it's enough about them. Michael says he's pretty sad that Eli Clark is leaving. Yeah, I'm sad about that too, mate. But as one of my old mates says, you can't keep them all. Look forward to seeing, Mr. Black says, looking forward to seeing Tracy playing this year. But before Adam said, for Leo Thompson, it was the Raiders or Bulldogs. It was the Raiders or Bulldogs, and you know that any player would pick the Dogs over the Raiders. Yeah, well, you'd expect so for these days. The Raiders really struggle with their location. It's hard for them to get the best players in the comp. But I've been his junior club, and also the fact that they have got an exciting bunch of juniors in that they're building from within. And that's how they have to do it now at Canberra is the same as the Bulldogs. I expect Canberra to be fighting for premierships in the coming years. But he would have definitely helped them, and I'm glad that he's come to the Dogs from that point of view, because I think their loss is our gain for sure. I don't think he's the Messiah, but I think he's going to develop into a very important signing for us in the future. I think many people would agree right now. You never know what's going to happen. But Leo Thompson, by him doing his role well, is going to be great for the players like Max King, Josh Curran, and their young fellas coming through and helping with those rotations. Sam Hughes is going to develop more, and he's a huge boy. He's not small at all. You get a Daniel Saluka Fafita, hopefully getting another deal with us because he's earned it this season. That's very exciting times for the Bulldogs, because Daniel has that physicality and physique of a Payne Haas, but can he play those minutes? I think he's a more damaging runner than Payne Haas. But can he tackle and make 35 tackles in 65 minutes? Payne Haas can do that, and then keep running it out of bloody yardage and also run it in attack. Like Payne Haas is a different type of footballer. But still, I don't think he's ever reached his potential with or without the ball, as far as annihilating the defence with his defence, annihilating the opposition with his defence, or being such a block-busting ball runner that people just can't stop him. I feel he's just got a really high work rate and does it at a really high level, which is why he's so important and worth so much money. But there you go. If Tracy played that good last year as fullback without a preseason, imagine how good this season. Raiders doing pretty well in the junior sides. They sure are, Michael. Yeah, so Connor Tracy, Gus has said that he's been impressed by him in the preseason, and I think that he's definitely one. Watching his games last year, he did some fantastic stuff. People talk about his ability in defence. Blake Taff had some issues with that as well. But look, these smaller fullbacks, you can hope that they can get back there in defence, make a cover tackle, get underneath and hold a player up. They do that a couple of times a game. That's a 12-point turnaround for us. And that's how I look at a lot of things. I look at the game, especially look, it's a cliche. They talk about it. It's the ones you save, not the ones you score, which are important at the end of the day. Obviously you got to know your opportunities, but you look at the whole thing from that. And I just went through a lot of those matches where we were competitive, and it was the efforts of players, unheralded players, throughout the season. When you go back and just focus on individuals, focus on Max King and just watch him. and see the amount of times he made important tackles, the amount of try-saving tackles Reed Marnie makes in a game. Oh, my God. Like, it goes unnoticed. He'll sit there and chop a player down close to the line, 20, 30 times a year or more, where you'd expect a try to be scored. And all people will talk about is that he gave away a penalty, See, this is the stuff. When these people are your mates and you're out there and you're playing for your mates and they're doing that stuff, that's why I say to fans, be really, really careful, hey? Like, your team's out there busting their gut for you. They had a good season last year. They've been slowly improving over about 4 years. Went from 3 wins to 3 wins to 7 wins to 7 wins to 13 wins last year. So it's been a gradual, slow improvement from the bottom of the ladder, which may still have some ebbs and flows. I expect this year we'll do a little bit better than last year. And then we'll see what happens with our squad and with our draw and all that moving forward. We can't look too far in advance. But as I was saying, the youngsters are going to come from within. I expect our $1.2 million signing will be someone that has come through as a junior. And that's what we'll need to pay to keep him in the club. When they're getting offered to play, rugby union and whatever else. That's what I see for our future. And if your salary cap's right, you're going to have that money available to do that. Just by managing it the right way. And that's how Penrith do it, and that's how Canterbury are doing it. That's how many clubs do it. But still, then you see clubs like the Roosters who just seem to be able to have 3 or 4 $1 million players in their club. You see a club like the Titans who have got 3 forwards that are on $1 million or very close to it, and wonder how the hell they feel the rest of the side. But anyway, we'll see what happens. G'day, Ross. We will breed our Bulldogs for the future, and that's right, Ross. That's 100%. So we get a lot of flack saying bred, bought, not bred, and all this sort of shit. We're a club with a small junior base. We have to constantly look outside. Peter Moore was always bringing in people from all over the land and the East Coast, from north to south. And we have to do the same. We've got actual pathways there. We go across the Tasman now. We go to Fiji. We've got pathways there. We've got pathways in with the school in Auckland. We've got pathways on the mid-north coast as well, so these things are definitely going to help the Bulldogs grow that junior base, but we're always going to be buying the best talent and encouraging them to come and develop in our system and be a development club. And we will transition, though, from the opportunity club to the development club. So the opportunity will be for the juniors to develop, and then there'll be a spot or two available for journeymen and for people for specific needs that aren't going to cost us an arm and a leg. Everyone else will be from within, and that is what we're going to do long term. But that's a decade-long process, right? It's not overnight. But the seeds have been planted. The game I watched the other day, Brad, we had Curtis Moran on the bench, Bailey Haywood, Lipoi Hopoi, and Harry Hayes. All of them played Jersey Fleet for the Bulldogs, right? At different times and whatever else. That was our starting bench in a couple of games. So that is progression. That is progression. Not all of them started as juniors, but you look at Haywood and Hayes. Both have grandfathers or uncles that played for the Bulldogs. Curtis Moran, his uncle played for the Bulldogs, Brad. They're building within, and that's 100% what we want to see. Adam says, yeah, I hate we always have to buy players instead of breeding our own, breed the next generation of Bulldogs players. Well, that's the thing, mate. We've got to buy. We're buying players and that's where we're giving opportunity to a lot of players. Daniel Saluka Fafita, I think he was on about 400 grand or something at the Rabbits and was sitting there with an injury. They were happy to free up some space, paid for some of his contract to come across to the Bulldogs, got a release for an opportunity to get his knee right and then show what he can do and restart his career and potentially be a blockbuster player for the Bulldogs in 2025. Players like Blake Taff who come across on 250, Jamin Salmon, who's already won a comp. You know, Drew Hutchison has been playing at the Roosters, won a comp at the Roosters. Been in that club that's won 2 comps. And bringing that experience to the Bulldogs and to the youngsters around. And then some of the best youngsters of the generation, like Blake Taff, like Toby Sexton. Blake Taff's played in grand finals, played under Wayne Bennett. He's got the knowledge. Connor Tracy's played, started with South, has gone to the Dragons, played with some good players there, gone across to the Sharks, who've had some good history and then shown an ability to sort of make the finals over a number of years now. And he's come across to the Bulldogs and he's got an opportunity to be our number one and our number one guy. And people keep looking past him. What I saw from Connor Tracy last year was, I saw another Luke Patton. The way that he just was ultra consistent. I see that with the young fullback that's already at the Sharks, that Will Kennedy, just ultra consistent. Not your origin fullback, but one of the most consistent and strong fullbacks out there in the comp. And I think you can win a comp with a fullback of that ability. Can Connor take the next step and go a bit further with that? Who knows? Let's see if he does. So, yeah, I've talked a little bit about Joey O'Neill. I think Joey's going to step up and play and get a debut at some point, expecting that Matt Burton has a really good season, because another season for Matt Burton, I'm seeing him grow into a more of a physical player, a smarter player, a more confident player. Was already pretty confident and already sort of, it doesn't look like he's stressing too much out there. And that's one of the things people sort of highlight with him. He doesn't look like he cares all the time. I just think it's more of a fact that he's just focused on playing his natural game as much as he can. And I think he's going to improve. And a player like him gets into representative football, that opens a door, hopefully, we're doing well, and can bring a player like Joey O'Neill onto the bench or give him a go at 5'8", because he can definitely play that. And he can pass both sides of the ruck. He's got some speed. And one thing he'll be looking, hopefully, be able to do is to hold his own in defence. And that's where our halfback will emerge from. If they can defend, they can tackle 100 kilogram or 110 kilogram back rower running at them. That's going to do them well. And, it's good to have players like Viliami Kikau in your club and Jacob Preston, who are hard to tackle and handle, because it's good practice for these kids when they do their drills and their scrimmages. Adam says Tracy's underrated. He's another one needs to develop. He's already a garment to me. He hasn't hit his full potential. Yeah, I'd say that as well. And he's not old, but he's definitely not young. And I think he's got an ability to go a little bit further in the comp with the Bulldogs. And we've got him for a couple more years as well. So it wasn't a 1 or 2 year deal. I think we've paid a little bit more for Connor to come. G'day, D. Welcome back, buddy. Great to see you, mate. Of all the players who've let go in the off-season, who do you think will succeed the most at their new club, and who would you like to see succeed the most at their new club? Look, I think the Fox will be a huge success at the Eels. And it's hard to say who do I want to succeed. it's like you want a player to do well, but you want their team to fail, obviously. So, but obviously you want those players to do well in games where they're playing teams that you really want that team to beat that team. So we get to think about that a little bit, but I think the Fox will have an outstanding season at the Eels. I think he was beefing up at the Bulldogs. I think his speed's still there, and on the back of a Mitchell Moses and young Brown, they got some talent there. Joash Papali, I hope Joash does really, really well. I'd like to see Joash. I'd love for Joash to be as good as Mark O'Connell. Mark thought we should be giving him $500,000 to keep him, and hopefully Mark's right about that. Because I really like Joash. I like watching him play. He's got another young fellow who I think is going to be a devastating fullback in young Iongi. But we'll see how that battle progresses for that position. But yeah, I think it'll be the Fox who'll do well. The Seve brothers, lots come out about the Seve brothers. There's quite a bit to deal with for them personally and with the club. And I think it was a really good move for both parties to separate. I don't wish anyone bad luck, but they're at the Roosters now. All I can say is fuck the Roosters. Fuck the Roosters, I want to see the Roosters struggle, just the way I am. And, maybe they get their debuts because their first grade side isn't doing well enough, and those guys get to play and everyone gets to see a glimpse of their potential. Dave, Viliami training in the back row, mate. I'm pretty sure he is. I can't see him moving to the middle. I just think he's wasted there. He's there to shorten up that defensive line, put pressure on the kickers, put pressure on their outside edges, and really condense our defence so that we can nail the opposition. And I think he does that best. But I watched him last year. Sometimes he come in a little bit closer to the ruck. Then other times he pushed out. Other times he stood in the playmaker position with the ball. He sort of roams around a little bit. Like, he is a star of our team. So I think he'll be on an edge again. But yeah, I'm still intrigued about the use of Satili Tupanua. Like some people are saying he should be lock. I don't think he's ever been a lock. But he might have been, but I've only really seen him play on the edges or in centre. So I think and he's on good money. So the pressure's on him to perform. I've got him for 4 years at 650. Yeah, let's hope Satili can go out there and lead the way. You'd expect him to start, but I expect him to come off the bench. I think Jacob Preston's the animal on the right edge, or left edge, wherever you put him. Maybe Jacob says, I want to play lock now. I want to play in the middle. I want to run it hard, up the teeth, get behind the ruck. It's a good scenario when you've got players like Josh Curran, Satili Tupanua struggling to make your first grade side. And maybe Viliami, maybe it's a struggle for him. That's what we want to see, because these youngsters like Jack Todd and Jack Underhill and Lipboy Hotboy, I'm expecting big things from them this year. They've all been training with the first grade squad, ready to take that step up, and I'm sure they'll be hungry as. And don't write off Kurt Moran either. Like, he played nearly every game last year. I know I felt he was underutilised in the semi-final a little bit, and he had a couple of mistakes in his game late in the season, which some head demons emerged there. But that guy's been building as a player for a long time, and he can do things which really get us on the front foot. He's an impact player. He strengthens our bench. I never feel like where our squad is weakened when he's there. I feel that he's an addition to our side. But when I name my best 17, I don't have Curtis in it. But yet again, I'm expecting him to prove me wrong for the second or third season in a row. And hopefully he can, and hopefully he does. So, what changes been made of the coaching staff this year? I don't think there's been too much. But there's been a lot of stuff coming through, but I haven't heard anything. I think it's still SG Ball is Steve Turner. You've got Josh Jackson with Jersey Flegg. And there's a lot of great talk about Josh Jackson. And if he thinks that you're not going to make it, they're going to trust his word pretty quickly. So he'll have a huge say in who our future junior Bulldogs are that are coming through. Then you got Jason Taylor still there, I'm sure. I think it was Chad Randall was the other one. I'm pretty sure he's still there. I don't think there's been too many changes, and I couldn't see why they would, to be honest. Maybe they've brought in some additional help, but I can't see too many changes in the coaching ranks. Second row is much better for Viliami. I think he'd kill it at 13. D says, is there one game in the season that you look out for first when a new season draw comes out? What team do you enjoy beating the most? Adam says he loves when we beat the Eels. I always look for the Eels. Well, living in Queensland, I look for the Queensland games first. But as far as I don't know. Look, I just have every team we play in the comp, I have like a deep rivalry with that side, like a burning desire for us to smash that team for various reasons. The team I probably every team worries me as well, but the one team that I look forward to beating the most is South Sydney. Yeah, I think what happened that day with James Graham, and there was a thing. We bought the bell from auction and gave it back to South Sydney. And the grand final, the coverage of them ringing the bell in that way before the game, and it was all about Souths and the coverage. We should have been a part of that ceremony, I believe, and it should have been made known that what we did for South Sydney in regards to that. And then that game where we dominated them, and it took the ref penalising Aidan Tolman, I think 4 times on the 4th or 5th tackle when we're defending, and just marching them up and giving them repeat sets on our line till they scored some really sort of just through, the tries they scored weren't spectacular by any means. I think they got an 8-point try in that match as well. There's a whole bunch of shit. Like, we would just look the better side all game. And to lose it the way we did, to have James Graham sent off and Clemmer at the end and good old wanker face, it just really made it a game where we wanted to win it. And last year I felt we were on. It was a little bit similar. I felt we were the better side, and South managed to win that match. And the fact Latrell didn't get 10 in the bin for what he did, the fact that they didn't give Isaiah Tass 10 in the bin for a clear professional foul when we're in a try-scoring opportunity, he's holding down the player. He's the one who then makes the tackle on the Fox, and then Latrell comes in and knocks the Fox out, who just got back, wasn't really ready for that match, I didn't believe anyway, was sort of a little bit half-assed in that match up until then, a little bit passive. when he had bulked up so much at the start and then got smashed in the shoulder in that first round match against the Eels by young Cartwright. But look, I think, yeah, South Sydney, I want to fucking smash those bastards, especially with Wayne Bennett going back there. I just want to see him struggle. If I watch them against the Broncos, I want them to beat the Broncos. I can't, there's teams I hate. But, yeah, the season's a lot better when we beat South Sydney. I know we beat them in the second round after we got flogged by Newcastle in 2023. But they had most of their team missing, and we only just won that match. Blake Taft nearly beat us on his own. I want to beat South. That's who I want to beat. Yeah, I love seeing us smack the Rabbitohs, but I really love seeing us give it to the Eels. Well, yeah, that match against the Eels in the second round last year on the Queen's birthday, such a huge 45,000 people there. Eels got ahead. Mitchell Moses had returned to play that match. And, yeah, that try that Blake Wilson got at the end. The good stuff from Stephen Crichton, and Tracy, the way they were just ripping them up on that right edge, their left edge defence, just really was a great win. And that really got us cranking for the rest of the season. What young players are you looking forward to seeing in the trials? Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Joey O'Neill. A lot of people are hoping to see Mitch Woods, I would suggest. I'm really looking forward to seeing Daniel Saluka-Fafita. But there's a few youngsters there coming through. Obviously, the Harry Hayeses and the Bailey Haywoods. You want to see how they look and appear early on. Hoping to see Satili Tupanua and Tom Amone get a run in the trials. So not necessarily the youngsters, just interested to see the new players that have come to the club and just seeing the development of some of these youngsters that are coming through. I'm sure we'll see the likes of Jonathan Sewer. I think we'll see a lot of Blake Taff and players like that. I think there'll be a lot of our New South Wales Cup squad. I don't really think we're going to see many minutes at all from players like Crichton, Burton, and the like. Maybe not Tracy either. I think the spines, the majority of the trial time will be spent on spine players from fringe players and up-and-comers. So, yeah, but in all of that, I've just named probably half the squad. If Jack Todd and Jack Underhill both get a game in the trials, I'd be very interested to see how they go, especially if they get to play against some opponents that, are proven in the NRL. That'll be interesting to see as well. Mitch Woods got upgraded to the top 30, so that's cool. Yeah, he's there for 3 years, Adam. But I don't think there'll be a huge, push for him to play NRL in 2025. I think he's a player we'll see get a debut in 2026 and beyond. And as I said, I think players like Joey O'Neill and even later in the season, a player like Cassius Tia could be one to emerge ahead of young Mitch Woods. This season especially, Mitch has got to get through this hard pre-season and then play a season against men and emerging men in New South Wales Cup. And they may even push him back and forward between flag and New South Wales Cup this season. But we will see. I think the plan there will be for him to be playing 7 and Joey O'Neill to be playing 6. And I have a strong feeling that Drew Hutchison will play in the centres to begin the season, or playing in a utility role or on an edge or somewhere like that. We've got young players like Logan Spinks coming through, who's a real untapped talent. Young Luke Smith, who's starting to emerge. And then you add to that Jack Todd, Jack Underhill, all these New South Wales Cup players. There's a real opportunity there for them to do well. So there you go. I haven't seen young Timmy on here tonight. Don't think I bloody messaged him. I'm going to try and share it. Sorry, guys. Timmy joined the channel last week, which was really good. Anyway, sorry, mates. But look, we're an hour and 5 minutes in. Our best 17s to start next year, or this year now, because we're into 2025. I think the back line is going to be pretty well similar for every person, except the only difference we probably will see is some people will pick Blake Wilson and others will pick Marcelo Montoya or Anari Tuwala. You may get the occasional person might pick a Jonathan Sewer. We might see some stuff happening in the trials. But look, I think it'll be Tracy, Carraz, Cherry, Crichton and Carraz on the same wing. And then Marcelo Montoya, he'll be outside Bronson Cherry. And then you got Burton and Toby Sexton. I think Sexton's going to have a really good year this year, and I believe Burton will as well, off the back of a much, a continued evolution of competitive, strong play from our forward pack, and a back line that's fast enough and skillful enough to do the job. And I think we're just going to continue to roll out with a skillful side. I think Max King, Reid Marnie and Hooker. The starting prop is going to be an interesting one. I think Ciraldo is going to roll out with Samuel Hughes. Maybe he'll roll out with King and Amone to start. Kick out Preston and Kurt Mann at lock. And then I think it will be Jamin Salmon will get the 14 role to begin the year. But you never know. Could be Bailey Hayward. And part of me wants it to be Bailey Hayward. I'm definitely not sitting on the fence. I'm just thinking what I think Ciraldo will do against Salmon's had some good matches against the Dragons last year and scored a couple of tries in one match and really helped us win. Hayward played well in the Dragons matches as well. So I think Salmon will go 14, and then I think it'll be Curran, Hughes, and the 17th player, Tupanua. So there you go. 18th man, Drew Hutchison. I think Drew might get 18th man quite a bit next year, but we'll see. And players, by the end of the season, I truly hope it's a good year if Daniel Saluka Fafita is playing that well, that he gets into our side and he's a player that's going places, and I'm hoping that's the case, but we'll see. We will see. So there you go, guys. Young Isaac Booth left the club. That was announced today. So he snapped that ankle when he was coming through. They had him running around in Ron Massey. He scored a couple of tries off the bench. He was looking very hard to handle in that grade. Would have played in some Jersey flag. Would have played New South Wales Cup. Snapped his ankle. Really bad injury. Made a comeback from that last year. Played off the bench in about 4 or 5, maybe a few more games in Ron Massey last year. I think got injured again, and he's no longer with the club. So there you go. Seve brothers have left. Joash Papali's left. Eli Clark's left. So a good bunch of young talent that we thought was going to develop into the next players for Canterbury are no longer with the club. So there you go. Can't keep them all. Dave says, what I love is the first time in many years, whoever the coach picks for 17, I'll have confidence in. Well, there you go, brother. And that's the same thing here. It's like it's harder to tell Ciraldo what to do when they have a better year, isn't it? It's like he should be picking him and he should be picking those players. Like the Dogfather hardly had to say anything last year because he was happy with Ciraldo's selections most weeks. He was very happy when Jarrell Skelton finally got to play and saw him and stuff. So, I just got a message from my daughter. What's she saying? Love you too. She might come onto my YouTube channel and say hello. She's staying at a friend's house tonight. So hopefully she's doing well. I'll have to I'll just send her a message. Good night. Anyway, guys, it's nearly 10 p.m. on a Sunday. People that go to work tomorrow. Thanks for everyone who's joined and said hello today. We'll be getting more and more into the season now. Can't wait. Starting to get excited. Like, subscribe, share, all that sort of crap. It always helps. And thanks for those who have joined the channel. Really appreciate it. And, that's pretty much it. Thanks for all the questions. Really nice, good stuff there from all of you. Thanks for your contribution. And we'll get this competition happening next week. We'll do another podcast during the week, maybe in a few days, and focus on that. I might try and get a few videos out there as well. Do a couple of player watches on some up-and-comers and what I expect to see from them this year. Give you a little rundown of who they are, where they've come from, that sort of stuff. But, as work gets busier, it's hard to do those things, and it's easier just to do the podcast. But we might get some more content out there for you. But the Bulldogs are doing a pretty good job of that themselves this year. There's been a lot of social media stuff coming through. The start of the little 3-minute videos talking about the preseason. I really like that. Short, sharp, and sweet. A lot more action involved in it. Not as many words. Couple of funny things coming through. So, Bulldogs have improved in the social media space as I wanted them to. And they've still got more to do. I think they can do more with the history of the club and acknowledging players from our history on a day-to-day basis and stuff like that, and having a real almanac of information for us to access as far as, NRL saying own the rights to everything, but it'd be better if the Bulldogs had a lot more to show. And that would be good to see that investment come through. But anyway, one step at a time. Most and above all, we just want to see them play well, and whatever money they can invest in to make that happen is exactly the priority. So anyway, people, thanks for joining. Stay safe, Adam. Thanks for coming back on, mate. Much love and respect to you too, brother. And hopefully it's a really good season for us. Great talking to you. Time to go. Just got to find the stream button. So go the Bulldogs.